Good morning, everybody. Very important announcement that Indie Girl made before the show. I was in here chatting with all of you before I went live. She said today is Taco Tuesday, and I'm all here for it. I am ready. And I don't mean any breakfast burrito with some scrambled eggs and a piece of bacon and some cheese. I'm talking the real friggin' deal. I want radishes on the side. I want some lime. Pico de gallo, the whole 9 yards. So that's important stuff to know. I like when I'm reminded about important stuff, and food is always important. Share Bear made it in. What is Lisa saying? Someone said Lisa said something. Wild Hair made it in. Nani made it in. Good morning. Good morning. Now, I put a video on the channel this morning about what happened yesterday. And that is the shooting in Nashville. We're going to discuss it for sure, but we're going to do it as a members live. By the way, Comrie's back. She renewed her membership. Bobby's a new member. Welcome. Check out the members tab and you'll see all the comings and goings of the channel there. We got all kinds of stuff going on over there. Because I've been reading some of the comments in the articles, and safe to say we got a lot of sick-ass people out there. So we're going to be doing that as a members live, and we are definitely going to have a lot to discuss. Just like today with this subject. All opinions are welcome. Theories, what have you. Don't be afraid to grab the link when it's floating around and come up and discuss. It's not an echo chamber. Nope. I'm not an investigator. I don't even play one with Google. I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one with Google, if you know what I mean. Everybody sees things a different way. Don't like the echo chambers. They bore the hell out of me. But my opinion, and I said it today in the Facebook group, the Crime Lines and Lies Facebook group, I said I think this case is getting ready to break wide open, and that is the case of Stephen Smith. Horrific, terrible. Can you imagine what was going through his head when he came across a couple of people, I'm going to assume a couple of people, that he knows, might have considered to be friends, I don't know, that took him out in a way that was so horrific that his mother couldn't recognize him, that the funeral home had to get putty, like the type of putty that you use on your walls and shit, to rebuild his face so he looked recognizable. They called it a hit and run. His mother wrote a letter to the FBI. When I first heard about this case, it was about a year and a half ago. And I was like, right on. His mom is fighting. And she is, don't get me wrong. I'm like, and she's got a gut feeling that this was not a hit and run. Well, it was more than a gut feeling. They were told right off the bat it was a homicide. And then they said, no, we're going to say hit and run. We don't want the bad guys to know we're after him. And it went from there. And now here we are. If it wasn't for, unfortunately, if it wasn't for the murders of Mags and Pawpaw, this would have never been reopened. It would have stayed the same. It would have never made it to the level of SLED, as they call it. I know there's been a lot of frustration with this case. Nobody could be more frustrated than Stephen's mama, Sandy. She's a little warrior. And we had discussed, it was like on a break when we were watching the trial. And there was a lot of people saying, what is going on with Stephen Smith? What are they going to do? When are they going to do something about it? Well, they spelled it out in a nutshell. Once Alex goes to jail, Randy's too scared to make a move. He's shitting his britches right now, and John Marvin doesn't even know what day it is. Hell, he thinks that those dildos were back massagers they sold at the auction. So anyway, With Alec in jail, they said they believe people would be more forthcoming. They're not going to be intimidated to talk. You know what I mean? So, it didn't take them but a hot minute from when old Alec went to his permanent home of gambling meat sticks and Pop Tarts for remotes to announce it's a homicide. Misty Dawn, thank you. She just gifted 10 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. Use those wisely. We got a lot going on. Summer Thunder got one. Joy Jones was gifted. RJ was gifted. Julie Dunn, welcome. We got a lot going on. Wow. Way to get it going. It's raining memberships. All right, let's get to the comments, and I'm going to bring up our friend Glenjamin. He has a lot of thoughts on this case. Very interesting. You're going to recognize him. Also, thank you, Skittles, for the super sticker. You guys are the best. Let's get to the comments from the last show. All right. If I showcase your comment, your after show comment, a lot of people watch on the replay. Thank you very much. And they'll leave an after show comment. If I showcase your comment, send me an email and you'll find out why. Oh shit, it's Sherry, has been a member for 2 months, and she says, absolutely love it here. We love you. Jules has been a member for 1 year. Wow, how time flies. Okay, to the comments. Trinity said, Brooks, if all were welcome in heaven, there wouldn't be a hell. Now, this was in response to yesterday's show, this sentence anyway, where a couple of people said I had some nerve of questioning Brian Kohlberger, known around here as Bushy. I questioned his spirituality. Anyhow, one lady, she had the entrance to Ellis Island confused with the pearly gates. That's all right. She's not very happy with me. We straightened it out. Okay, so Trinity said that. Then she said the fact that the Murdochs were sniffing around this scene so early after it happened is not a good sign. And no, it's not. If Buster is involved, makes me wonder, how were the kids raised? Well, I've heard a little bit about that. It seems in a way that the legacy and the name Murdoch meant more to Maggie than it even did Alec to some point. At a young age, Bus and Pawpaw, they could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years old and be calling grown adults mofos, telling people to get effed, you name it. And she would just say that she would not discipline those boys. It was well known. They were allowed to drink with their parents. They just, it's a totally different sense of entitlement, if you know what I mean. But she says, makes me wonder how they were raised. Looks to me, Buster and Paul were taught they could do anything they wanted without consequences. The results were catastrophic. Yes, they were, and that is exactly how they were raised. To a point that Buster is almost inconvenienced and bothered by what is going on. Now, he did make a statement a couple of weeks ago, and the statement was very awkward timing. It was announced that Sandy Smith has enough money through a GoFundMe to exhume Stephen and have an independent autopsy. Well, that ruffled a feather. That ruffled one bright red fucking feather, because he made a statement that day, basically saying, leave me alone. He didn't have anything to say when 2020 said something. He had nothing to say when the Today Show was saying something every morning. He said nothing with the highly popular Netflix episodes. Nothing. But the new autopsy and the the fact that Stephen will be exhumed, that chapped him a little different way. That girl James said Sandy said that Randy also called Stephen's parents the morning of his death asking for his social media accounts and their login information. That within itself is weird enough to raise questions for me. Me too. When I read that, I said, oh, come on now. Come on now. I read some comments a couple of shows ago. One lady was really after me. She said they went to the scene of the crash because they're personal injury attorneys. Oh, okay. I think it went way beyond that. Way beyond. What personal injury attorney? I mean, you've heard of ambulance chasers. You know, they're chasing the ambulance to the hospital. They're going to sign somebody up before they even get into surgery, the whole 9 yards. They went to the scene of the crash. Randy reached out to give free legal advice. Lawyers don't do shit for free. We know that. Unless they have to. Then to say, can I get his social media account passwords? No. Personal injury attorney needs that info. Shady. Shady. Rowena said, in my opinion, since Alex's conviction, I think people will feel safe to speak up. Me too. Me too. I think they could have made this announcement when they reopened the investigation. I think whatever they came across told them this was no hit and run, for sure. I also am very curious as to how many heads are going to roll. There is a big cover up here, and somebody besides the people or person that killed Stephen, somebody needs to be held accountable. And I'm going to say several people. That's going to be really interesting. Leslie Mamak said, is bus a flight risk? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I know everybody was worried about Leilani. Leilani doesn't have 2 dimes to rub together. She's just got a few friends on meth in trailers down the road. Bus is a different story. Bus has connections. He has money. He's got people that know people. I think he could be a flight risk. That's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. Rowena, Randy is as well. You can't tell me for a minute that Randy did not know what was going on in his own damn law firm. No way. No way. And it is a cover-up. It needs to be addressed. The Attorney General of South Carolina needs to be all over this. There are several troopers that need to go down. A medical examiner. This cannot just go away with the whodunit to Stephen. It's much deeper than that. Let's see what our friend Glenjamin is up to. We've been talking back and forth about this case for a while, and I want to get his 2 cents because he's got 2 cents to rub together. Good morning, Glenjamin. How are you?
Hi, Brooks. Hi, chat. Everyone in chat. Good morning.
You're not used to being on this side of it, are you?
No. I was sitting backstage and I kept wanting to comment and type, so it was a little different. Yes.
It's a little different. So,
yeah.
What do you make out of all of this? Because it's almost 8 years in the making. He was killed July of 2015.
Yeah, and they hushed it up really quick. I mean, someone got to that doctor. I've seen interviews where people recount their interactions with her, and she was pretty adamant that it was hit and run. That's it. Case closed. And I don't think in an area like the lowlands where a poor gay young man is killed that they really put any resources in it. That's why I'm glad that they've been able to get the funds to secure the funds for this second autopsy. I think that that's going to show us a lot and give us some answers. You know.
Absolutely, and the links that they went to make sure that this investigation didn't escalate up to the sled level is very telling. Now, that doctor knows the difference between a car wreck and a
Yes.
beating. So what's going on there?
I, you know, those Murdochs, it could be something as simple as she had a secret, or um, Alec knew something on her. Maybe he represented her on something that people didn't know about. You know, some kind of blackmail, because that was one of the tools in the Murdoch's uh, toolbox. You know, that intimidation, the fear, and all of that. I have um, run over this incident many times in my head since I really first heard about it with this Murdoch case. I didn't hear about it back when it happened, but to me, I, I just don't understand where the rest of where the rest of the I'll say blood uh, is, and it's just like he just dropped where he stood. But I don't think that's the case, and I also wonder because to get beat up and have those injuries would take a tremendous amount of force. It seems like a singular event. And another thing I thought of is that maybe he was walking on the side of the road. One car of these ne'er do wells pulls up and calls him over to talk at the driver's window, and they're talking. And, another car comes by that's part of their group, and, you know, boom. Um,
Absolutely. And,
yeah,
her letter was very telling of it seems like the story really hasn't changed. And I go back to one of the first responders who believed that this was this beating was somewhere else and that he was left there. Here's the
right,
map where his car was found and where his body was found. Now, it's also very telling that his sister has said in the last almost 8 years that he's ran out of gas before. And he would go off the road and basically go hide in the woods until someone could come help him. He wouldn't just take off walking down the road.
right. Even walking together, she said that they would walk off of the side of the road when they were even together. So, you know, there's no way the poor fellow was walking down the middle of the road. I think we can all say that with a high level of confidence. What would draw someone to the middle of the road is one way to ask about it. Mm, where did this really happen, and who dropped him off is the other side of the coin in my mind. And I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. They're going to have to figure it out. And
Yeah,
I'm
I think the autopsy will give a lot of answers. I've even thought to myself, maybe he was, you know, I don't know what to say on the show here, shot, and they never did that. Maybe they'll find that. I don't know that they did X-rays of his head and things like that.
Well, they're gonna have to now because they're having an independent autopsy done. They're gonna make sure
Absolutely.
nobody that could be influenced by the Murdaughs, and they're still out there. They're
Oh
still out
yeah.
there. Just because Alex is in jail doesn't mean that the machine isn't still in damage control mode.
No, there's many limbs on that tree, unfortunately. Um,
But I
and
wonder.
I think it's going to take a while, for the people in the community to really come forward about things. I think this fear, when someone's been ruling a county for nearly 100 years, that fear settles in through generation after generation of the local population, right? And that's something you just don't break out of, that kind of fear. It's my true feeling that in time we'll be learning more. But what was interesting about the mom is she didn't even know who, quote unquote, the Murdoch boys were when
Mm-mm.
people started telling her about that. So there's something there. Um,
Oh, big time. Then I think about, not to switch subjects, and I'm not switching subjects, but when people were on the scene for the boat wreck, and one of the kids said, talking about Paul, he said, "He's a Murdoch, so good luck." They all knew.
Yeah.
The kids
Yeah.
knew. They all knew, and I have a feeling by Buster and Paul, I have a feeling they were reminded quite often. I think they had their own way of bullying people, and it was by their name and their influence. "Don't mess with me.
Yeah.
I can
I
do
mean,
what
I
Ronnie's."
wouldn't have put it past one of the boys to say that if he lost a game of one-on-one basketball.
Yeah,
You know, I'm a
100%.
Murdoch, can't lose. Right. Yeah.
100%. I mean, a lot of their behaviors were overlooked by everybody from teachers to family members to other
Hmm.
friends' parents because of who they are.
Yeah. Well, I I think there's going to be a lot of answers in this second autopsy. That's where I'm putting my hope. But I have to believe it happened somewhere else, unless it was the you know GUN. Um, because man, you just don't drop like that. Even if something, if he was struck by something from a passing vehicle, I mean it would have spread things around more. It's like he was dropped there and kind of um, bled out a little.
Well, I mean, if it was a hit and run, which we know it wasn't,
Right.
there would be quite a scene, not to be gruesome, but
Hmm.
it would be obvious that something happened there. There wouldn't be clean asphalt or concrete, whatever
No.
you wanna call it.
No.
If he was beaten right there, same. It had to have happened somewhere else. I'm gonna put the map up again, and someone carried him, and I wonder, 8 years,
Where's that truck of Busters?
that's what I wanna know. Where
Right.
they're gonna have to go back through and look at all the vehicles they have owned in the last 8 years, find them, and go through them. It's also gonna
Right.
be very telling when they do make arrest and they have a probable cause affidavit that came out. Hopefully, we get a lot of info the first go around. We don't have to wait a long time. They were very forthcoming the last time, that they say exactly what it was that they came across that made them reopen this.
That's curious, isn't it? I've wondered if it was something on one of their phones. Um, I've also wondered if they found an instrument and tested it for DNA of some type, any type. I don't know what. Um, but it seemed like all of a sudden, bam, the case was back open. So I feel like they found something credible.
Well, this was pointed out to me. I don't know if it was in
Hmm.
Discord or the Facebook group. Sometimes I
Hmm.
forget. But this was mentioned, and it says, "I received a message to call SLED agent Michael Moskal in reference to discussing trace evidence located on the deceased clothes in this case. During our conversation, Mr. Moskal advised he located around 10 1 millimeter single layer blue paint chips.
Hmm.
Mr. Moskal advised he needed more paint layer evidence to pinpoint a particular vehicle. Mr. Moskal advised that the PDQ database indicated the paint could be from an industrial tool, dumpster, or signpost. Mr. Moskal added that the Toyota used this particular paint on its vehicles from 82 to 88. Advised he located around 10 1 millimeter. Okay, that's the same thing. That's very telling.
But where did that come from? I mean, I just saw that for the first time yesterday. Everyone in every documentary and everything I've seen said there was no evidence of any collision with a car or anything. And yesterday I started hearing about the blue paint chips, right along with this Brian Koberger, the DoorDash driver. It's like people are pulling things out of their cananger.
I don't know. You take
I
anything
don't.
out of context, you can make it make sense, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And I don't know about you or anyone in chat. I could be wrong. I don't know everything, and I don't hear everything. But I've certainly not heard anything about blue paint chips or paint chips of any kind at the scene. And I don't know the provenance of that document. Why haven't we talked about that before? It's just pops up yesterday. Just when things happen like that, we have to at least, think critically and not suck it up. I had to get off of YouTube yesterday with the Brian Koberger was the DoorDash driver stuff. I mean, it was just insane.
Oh, that's crazy. They've already said they made contact with the DoorDash driver. I don't know where people
Yeah,
that.
no, and so who was driving Brian? Who was driving Brian's car from his apartment with his phone in it?
I know. You know what? If they keep people engaged for more than a hot second, they'll talk about it, some of these people. Unicorn had a point, and this is what the common theory seems to be about the blue paint chips.
Hmm.
I don't know why they would just be on, and we don't know that they were just on the sleeve of his
Hmm.
shoulder. And I don't know if it was the shoulder that was dislocated, but the paint chips, they said, could have come from a blue wooden baseball bat.
So yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Right.
But
Because if you get hit by a car, you're not just going to have a rubbing of paint chips on your damn shoulder.
no,
No.
you're coming out of your shoes and everything else, and unfortunately, I've seen this before in my life, and you're just not laying on your back. Just leave it at that.
Well, let's go back. This was a year ago. It said new documents in Stephen Smith death investigation. This was actually about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Let's look at this. It's very interesting.
A Count on Two investigation.
Tonight, we are learning more about a 2015 death investigation recently opened by state police after the murders of both Margaret and Paul Murdoch. We obtained previously sealed case files from the State Highway Patrol detailing the unsolved death of a 19-year-old man and the connections investigators found to the Murdochs. News 2 Sophia Distor poured through hundreds of pages of case reports and shares what she learned tonight. Sophia.
Brendan, Stephen Smith was found dead in a roadway. Original reports say it was a hit and run, but the notes that detail Highway Patrol's years-long investigation point to a different story. We obtained photos, videos, and hours worth of interviews. The Murdoch's name coming up repeatedly. The 2015 case now getting a second look by SLED.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
It's the call that would spark an investigation into what troopers thought was a hit and run.
I was going down the Crockerville Road, and I see somebody laying out.
But incident report after incident report shows no signs Stephen Smith was hit by a car.
They kind of went back and forth, and there were different rumors and about it, him possibly getting hit by a car and this and that. He didn't get hit by no car.
Dozens of interviews we obtained show a complicated web of family members and classmates who knew the 19-year-old and the rumors spreading around Hampton County.
You don't have to agree with Stephen's lifestyle, but that don't mean that he gets to be killed and nobody gets to find out what happened.
Within a month,
Amen.
those rumors were...
That's exactly right. They've known this for years, and it was just a tug of war fueled by political influence and money and threats. I agree 100% with Lisa. Let's just pretend. We've been pretending for 8 years anyway. Let's just pretend it was a random hit and run. Either way, somebody has to be held accountable. You don't get to run over somebody, whether you're drunk, you're sober, you weren't paying attention, they weren't paying attention. Something has to be solved there. And it was just done. Hit and run, that's all there is to it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that medical examiner, she was just so dug in, unwilling to discuss it with anyone from what I read. So
She
I don't know when.
won't even answer the phone now.
No. Do you or anyone in chat, do you guys know when they may do the autopsy? Because they have the money now. I guess it would just be a matter of them finding an independent person, but I would imagine they have done that already. So
Eric,
my guess is it would be soon.
Well, as soon as they can get it done. Eric Bland explained the process, and we're probably looking at a good 6 weeks on the fast side.
Yeah.
because you can't, it's just not something that just happens overnight, you know?
No, no, yeah, you have to go through some hoops to get that done. But I would imagine they have their independent examiner in place now, and I just think that's where we're going to get a lot of answers. I think that this young man was dealt a terrible injustice.
Huge. I think between the independent autopsy in correlation to what reopened the case, what SLED came across when they were investigating the murders of Maggie and Paul,
Mhm.
all of that. And without those two murders, this would still be a hit and run and nobody would look at it. This was
Yeah.
no secret in that county. I'm not saying Alex did anybody any favors, but I mean, I guess in a way. I don't know.
It's right. This is the first time I've seen this photo that's up, and I see the asphalt in back of the car, like maybe it's a pullover spot, or I don't know, maybe a driveway if it goes into the right into the woods, but it looks like a pullover spot. I wonder if he pulled over there, or if someone just took his car back there. And something
Well,
else that bothers me about his car is that his wallet was between the passenger seat and the door. That's a really weird place for a wallet.
super
So
weird.
I just don't know. It's so full of holes, that it's our nature. We're wired to kind of fill in those holes, and you can get down a rabbit hole pretty quick. Nonetheless, I'm sure we all do it, and we'll figure it out, and there'll be justice. I'm sure of that now with this second
Oh,
autopsy.
absolutely. I mean, by
Yep.
nature, we discuss things and try to figure it
Mhm.
out. We don't, some people
Yeah.
are okay just to wait for the headline that comes out in 5 years. By then they're going to forget. But, there's some of us that, we have these discussions and what do you think happened? What do you think happened? It's been going on since
Yeah.
God was a boy. Sarah
Yep.
Adams said, or lured there. That's what I'm wondering too, because
Yeah.
this is not, I mean, you have a place right there you can pull over on the concrete.
Mhm.
If you run out of gas, I mean, if you run out of gas, there's really no convenient place for it, to be quite honest. But the
Right.
car is in the grass. And I've been trying to find something saying that when authorities or the man that called, when the authorities mainly, when they made contact with the car, did they move it? I can't find anything anywhere saying that they moved it.
No.
Nobody would coast into the grass if they ran out of gas.
Right, and what a perfect place to run out of gas, right? I mean, it's weird. It looks like it was placed there, or he drove there under false pretenses, perhaps.
Or like Sarah said, lured there. I had another comment saying that
Yes.
the blue golf cart might be the key. As we know, Moelle is not that
Oh,
far. Moselle is
yeah.
not that far. Let's look at the map. There's the Smith residence, body found, vehicle found, and you can see Moselle is not that far away.
Yeah, they could have thrown that in the back of a truck.
Uh-huh.
I'll be darned. I hadn't considered that. That's good.
Look at
Yeah.
us solving the case up here.
Yay! That's right. On the case.
Pointing to Buster Murdoch, the son and brother of the two Murdochs shot dead in June of this year.
We didn't know who did it, but we just heard that Buster did it. So after that, I mean, everybody know who Buster is and like his family and all that. So it was kind of like shocking. Everybody know Buster did it.
Investigators speaking with several people, backtracking where the tip originated from.
And did he say where he heard that from or how he was backing that up?
Nothing.
So he just said, oh, I heard Buster did it.
Yes, sir.
Did he say how he did it or what happened?
He kept up into the truck.
According to notes, investigators received a tip that another Hampton County resident killed Smith. When investigators spoke to the tipster, he stated, quote, The reason he was passing this information on was because Buster's uncle told him to call. The Murdoch's power over the county referenced multiple times in different interviews, investigators assuring people the process was confidential.
My office is out of Charleston, okay? I don't work around Hampton, and I know that the Murdochs are highfalutin around Hampton, and, you know, some people say have a lot of power or whatever, but that name doesn't mean anything to me.
And with that being said, you have this guy out of Charleston saying, I don't care about those people, but yet I don't think he realized how far their reach was because he got shut up real quick. Now, mind you, these documents on their local channel came out about a year and a half ago, okay? Buster would have been aware that on the local news, they were using his name. He said nothing. Don't get me going. HBO, Hulu, Netflix, Today, New York Post. But it wasn't until they said we have enough money to exhume him and get our own autopsy was a statement made.
Right. And I don't know what value there is in those kind of statements. I guess you have to be on the record and saying it and respond to it. But I mean, personally, I wouldn't have responded to it if I was innocent. I would have let, you know, that's how I live my life. I can't let people live in my head rent free. So I'm not going to, you know, be addressing it if I'm innocent. But we're all different. I'm me, he's him, you're you. You know, so it's hard to make a judgment based on what you as an individual thinks or would do, right? But I don't know, man. They sure did get hot on that all of a sudden.
I
They
mean,
really
he
did.
sat
They
in
found something.
Oh yeah. I think that was what was making him sweat because he sat in that courtroom. He saw his daddy go down. He's been talking to his daddy about meat sticks, remote controls, people that smear shit on windows, the whole 9 yards. Didn't faze him. They say new autopsy, and suddenly we have a statement. And the statement even ended with something so rude, as in his thoughts are with Stephen Smith's family. Where were you 8 years ago? You had to throw that in?
Wow.
You had to throw that in?
Well, his statement is on the record.
So my job is to find out, you know, same thing like I told Taylor. You don't have to agree with Stephen's lifestyle, but that don't mean that he gets to be killed and nobody gets to find out what happened.
Right.
Now, investigators in this packet note that they did contact Buster by phone and email, but never heard back. Both the original Highway Patrol case and the new sled investigation are ongoing.
And that right there, she's holding up what looks like a Tokyo telephone book. She said, this packet right here, they've been trying to get in touch with Buster. Of course, he's not going to talk to them. That's not how you do it. He has an attorney. Nothing. They can't get in touch with him. He won't answer the phone. He won't respond to their emails, as he should not. I'm not disagreeing with that. But his attorney says nothing. His attorney says nothing. These are just accusations. Don't worry about it, Buster. It's been too long. They would have to get a new autopsy. They don't have 2 dimes to rub together. Don't worry about it. Let's take care of your daddy's business. I'll take care of that later. And then, boom, we have a statement.
Absolutely. You know, there's never been any justice for the people in that area. But I think there may be. We've seen some justice already, and I think there's more to come. Just a horrible kind of environment to live in. I can't quite imagine. I mean, I've had a bad boss or two, but I can't imagine living in a town where, you know, a family can just literally get away with murder. And you know it, and your neighbor knows it, and your cousins know it, and everyone knows it. So, you know, nobody's good there. I mean, that area was living in fear, still is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder about that as well. Because they said they felt that with Alec in jail, more people would be more forthcoming. Of course, we don't know. I mean, we don't want them on Facebook
Right.
telling their story. But
Yeah. It may take a little while for that fear to rub off. Like I said, it's really in their genes to a degree now,
Mhm.
after all of these years and generations. But I do think that eventually we will be hearing more stories. And I mean, there was, to just get off of Stephen Smith for a quick second. There's been a lot of questions about where did the money go? Where did the money go? I can't help but think that Alex is a terrible gambler.
I've wondered myself. I
Yeah,
mean,
a lot of
not to,
conversation about that.
yeah. I mean, we have
Like
surveillance.
Buster and Paul Martin.
Yeah, they do
John
too.
Martin. Yeah. And he's talking about, he's bragging about winning some meat sticks. I mean, it's something that's at least in the front of his mind. So that could have been where some of the money went as well. But I also think I don't know. I guess I don't know what to think, but maybe he had to get a loan from bad people too, So there's always that.
And at this point, I don't know that they're even chasing the money so much. They're
No.
just settling debts with what they can sell.
Yep.
And the auction is definitely weird because you hear some articles, read some articles that say that the sale from the auction, everything from the vibrators to the dartboard that says
Oh,
Buster and the turtle lamps are going to go to these people that were ripped off. Then some articles say no, they're going to Maggie's estate, and then it goes to Buster. So I don't know.
that's wrong. If that's the case. A lot of people are out a lot of money. Not only did his partners lose their business and their reputation, but they lost all of their money. They had to pay these people back.
Mm-hmm.
As much as they could. There's still a lot outstanding, of course. I don't know.
It's just my opinion
Mm-hmm.
that Randy's flimsy lawsuit against Alec for $75,000 is just a lame attempt to save face.
Right.
These people don't care about $75,000,
No.
particularly between brothers.
No.
But he thinks that's separating the men from the boys. I don't think so, because he knew what was going on.
I think they're used to playing to a small audience there in their area. And when this became national, that stuff doesn't play nationally. That kind of hometown abusive, fear-centered kind of politics and ways about taking care of business in a town. When people across the country hear about that stuff, they go, wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute. You might be attuned to it, but we're not.
Right.
My wrench has a great comment. She says, I believe he was paying off the police in that county.
Oh, heck yeah. It's true.
He's getting a lot done and can't account for it. He says he was just eating those peels, enough pills to kill a herd of elephants. He has got the best liver in the world. Peels, eating those peels. That money had to go somewhere, and it's got to go somewhere that can't be traced. And let's face it, we're looking at it on the screen. This investigator, the medical examiner, wasn't interested in our work. What medical examiner would not want to see what the people that know how to investigate accidents, what they would have to say in correlation to her examination?
Exactly. And why were Alex and his brother at that scene so early in the morning? That bothers me too. I know they're personal injury lawyers, but they're not Saul Goodman ambulance chasers, They don't listen to a scanner and hear an accident and run out and try to get a client. So that also leads me to believe that someone connected to them knew about this and let them know. I'd also be curious to know what you and what the consensus is in chat, if there really was something going on with Buster and Steven, and that's why this had to happen in his mind. I feel that way. That's my speculation, rather. I don't know, but that's my thought. For some reason, he had to go away.
He had to go away. There was a reason he had to go away.
Right.
That would make the most sense. That's what the kids that knew them say.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense, but I don't know. I mean, it's one or the other. They say that when Paul would drink, he would become Timmy, a totally different person. And Timmy couldn't be stopped. Timmy was mean. And I thought, well, maybe it's Paul. But it said, and in the letter that Sandy wrote to the FBI, the Murdoch boys, the nephews of the solicitor, which would be Buster and Paul. And I could
Right.
see Paul having a sort of a mean streak
Right.
to pick on Steven, and Buster to let it happen because he has his own something that he's got to cover up.
Right. He wins too. And the little detective, as Paul is known, he may have found out about Buster and Steven. Again, I'm just speculating. We all run this stuff through our mind, but that's what I think about sometimes. He may have found out about Buster and Steven, and that may have been the spark that started the fire and led to this.
Mm-hmm. Because Paul definitely had a way of finding things out. He never kept his nose in his lane. And
he's a much meaner spirit than Buster, in my opinion.
Oh, big time. And that's the thing about the murders of Maggie and Paul, because every now and then you have a crime such as that, where the victims are just not sympathetic characters, but you're forced to sympathize because as bad as they were, you don't deserve that.
No, that's right.
So now we get to this. The investigators were so sure that it wasn't a hit and run at one time. Why on earth was a rape kit done on Steven? They had to have seen something that
led them to believe that. I believe the same thing, Brooks, that they, when they got him to the wherever they do this stuff and started to have a look, I think they saw something that led them to do that. I mean, that's not, I'm certain that's not protocol for a hit and run victim.
God, no.
So I don't know anything about the results, though. I don't know.
We're going to find out one day.
Yeah.
Let's look at this. Of course, Ashley Beigefield is on the scene.
Retired now, but you've been on the job as an investigator for decades. And I couldn't understand for a moment why I heard on a hit and run or even a suspected hit and run, within 13 hours, a rape kit would have been ordered. Have you, in your line of work, doing this kind of high-level investigation, ever seen anything like that?
No.
When it comes to traffic accidents, never. This was the very first time. I did not have an understanding of why it was being ordered. We were not notified until later that it had been ordered. So no, I have no answers for you to why they would order a rape kit for what would be suspected as a hit and run, which it wasn't, but I would never understand that.
And the rape kit was ordered within 13 hours of the discovery of Steven's body. Yet in that same time frame, if anybody thought this was anything other than a run-of-the-mill hit and run, you would have been called in with the mate team to do further investigation. And yet you were called off and a rape kit was called in. Does that square at all?
No, ma'am, it does not. I was puzzled and confused from start to when we actually got to finally pick up the case, why we weren't given the opportunity to, be a part of it from the beginning.
Was mate and your team, or even the South Carolina, highway patrollers, were they ever given any information on what the rape kit yielded or where it ended up?
I know it ended up with SLED, but we were never given any information of the results, or I was not until I retired. Now, they may have an answer now, but as of 2018, we were never given any information of what the results pending, whether it was negative or anything of that nature.
Well, I have a guest coming up who thinks he might have some resolution to that, and it's very distressing, to say the very least. I have other questions I want to ask you about that are equally distressing, and they involve the Murdoch family as relates to this accident. Stephen Smith's father, who's no longer with us, I believe he died about a year after Stephen Smith was killed. Stephen Smith's father called you and had a specific question about Randy Murdoch. What was the question?
So it was within a very short period of time that Stephen's father had contacted me and asked me about the law firm contacting him about retaining their services. He was really concerned why they would be calling and wanted my advice. Unfortunately, my rule is, or our rule is, investigators and the police, we do not give legal advice. I told him what I thought, and he basically kind of said in short terms that he was not going to do anything at this point. But it was very unusual to me that within a very short period of time, he was contacted.
And then Sandy Smith had reported that they, meaning Randy, had offered free legal representation to that family within 72 hours of Stephen Smith's body being found in the road. And they didn't have a connection to the Murdochs. They didn't even know what the resolution was yet. They didn't know if it was a hit and run, a murder, and yet a lawyer shows up on their door offering the free legal advice. There was another moment I want to ask you about. Sandy reported that she saw Alex Murdoch and Alex's brother Randy at the actual scene of where Stephen's body was found as she was driving to the funeral home. Would there be any reason at all for two lawyers like the Murdochs, Alex and Randy, to be at the scene of where Stephen was found dead within such a short period of time?
In my opinion, no, not if they were not involved in any way. In my opinion, I could not answer why they would be there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Personal injury attorneys they wait to get the photos from the insurance company, the police report, things like that. They don't go to the scene. I would love to know if they wiped it down. What were they doing? Now, I had a comment a couple of weeks ago. A woman was kind of upset with me and she said, leave Buster alone. Hasn't he been through enough? Hell, I don't know Buster. He doesn't watch this show. Craig Melvin's on his ass every morning on the Today Show. He's got other things to worry about than this show. But anyway, she said another podcaster who's been on this since day one, I have no idea who this is, said that a SLED agent told her Buster has been cleared. Bullshit.
No way.
Nobody told podcasters.
But they told a YouTube creator that.
No one, no SLED agent reached out. Man. And you can pull the feathers off a duck. It's still a duck. The woman's a YouTuber. She's not a podcaster. They love saying, I'm a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. Yeah, right. When I make a grocery list, I'm a novelist, right? No SLED agent said that. No. Because a year and a half ago, it was on the local news. They said, Buster, 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 Netflix, Buster, Buster, Buster. Buster knows how to get a hold of people to sue people. Then why isn't he suing the shit out of people? Burke Ramsey almost owed CBS after they alluded to him killing his own sister. Hell, he had him by the balls. I think he got like $50 million. Why can't Buster sue?
Yeah, Buster has many libel and slander cases he can pursue. Mm-hmm. But nothing. You're exactly right. That's a good point.
Listen, look at this, Dina. Exactly. Everybody gets a title. Dina said, I'm a
Professional
professional.
content reviewer.
Everybody gets a title when you use the internet. Love that shit. I'm a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. Yeah. Okay. Aren't we all? So then we get to and I don't just say it with like TMZ, but I say it with other podcasters. When people that normally their content is entertainment, they talk about, Britney Spears' Instagram, when they delve into a true crime case, you got a crazy one on your hands.
Oh, it's pathetic. I usually don't last 5 minutes.
You got a crazy one on your hands.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, besides the Today Show, CBS This Morning, all the big ones, I don't know who is following this more heavily than TMZ. They're putting the stuff out there. They spoke to the attorney that is handling such matters for Sandy. And it's actually very interesting. Look at this.
What we hope to accomplish through the new autopsy is to have a true independent outsider, hopefully someone with some national reputation, to examine the body and give us a true independent view of what happened to Stephen that day. And the reason why the family does not accept the outcome of the first investigation is multiple, right? So Stephen's car supposedly broke down about 3 miles from the place where his body was found. To accept what's been told to the family so far, you would have to accept that car having broken down in the middle of the night, that he walked for 3 miles down a country road, that he never one time used his cell phone in that 3-mile walk to call or text for help, that a car struck him, and that his body suffered no apparent injuries from the torso down, that he still had his loosely tied shoes on his feet, that he landed in the middle of the road with no skid marks and no vehicular debris of any kind whatsoever. So everybody in South Carolina knows someone who's either struck an animal in the road or they've done it themselves. I can tell you, if you strike a dog, a deer in the roadway, it destroys the vehicle. So it is unacceptable to believe that this accident happened the way it was determined and that there were no evidence, no debris of any kind whatsoever.
Bam.
Bam. Just
Can I say I love that print behind that painting?
I do too. I wonder what that is.
Looks like birds, like storks or something.
Looks like a pelican, now that you say
Or
it.
a pelican, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they are. I like that. Looks like I don't know, is that an oil or a water painting? What do you think?
I don't know, man, but it's busy. I like it. But see, this is what I was referring to earlier, that everyone's saying that there wasn't anything found, and I just don't know where the blue paint chip stuff comes from. And back to the blue bat, maybe. I think if it was a wooden bat, it may have left splinters.
Okay.
Just a thought. Yeah. So I don't know if it was a wooden one. Aluminum baseball bat, sure.
It would definitely have to be aluminum.
Yeah.
And then it was brought up the blue golf cart. I don't know. I'm curious because he wasn't hit by a car. We know that.
Yeah.
I mean, he brings up an example right here. Anybody who's ever hit an animal in the road, armadillos are the damn worst.
Oh, lucky you. We don't have those here, I don't think.
But I mean, just that paragraph right there that he just spouted out, that's it in a nutshell. We're supposed to believe that he didn't use his cell phone. He decided to coast into the grass, walk 3 miles, and also he's laying in the middle of the road. Somebody was making it look like a hit and run for sure, they thought.
Yeah, 3 miles, to walk 3 miles at just a regular pace is pretty close to an hour. And to not use your phone, it just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't he call his sister if he was out of gas?
Yeah.
I've never heard if the car was the gas tank was actually empty or not, but I mean, someone could have easily siphoned it. or just let it run, and run out of gas. I don't know, but I haven't heard if it actually was out of gas. If you guys have, then please make me smarter.
I want to know that as well. The gas cap was off.
Yeah, it was weird.
And when I think about Randy and Alex coming out there, and they were allowed to approach this car, for all we know, they might have had some Windex and some ShamWows with them. Remember the ShamWow that could soak up anything?
You mean the Bam Pow guy? He
Yeah.
got thrown in jail for beating up.
Yes. They could have been making sure there was no fingerprints on that gas cap, steering wheel, anything.
Yep.
But when you hear the attorney that's representing Stephen's family, when he breaks it down like that, it's like, well, feel pretty stupid.
I mean, I'm
So
way
how did
past-
this happen
Oh, go ahead.
that authorities accepted that this was a hit and run?
It seems like the case did not advance to the SLED level, and SLED in our state is the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. They are our top cops. If this was a vehicular matter, it would be left to the Highway Patrol. We think at the first pass, it was summarily and maybe lazily characterized as a hit and run because he was in the roadway and his vehicle was found some distance away. And we didn't get to that higher tier of investigation that we would have with SLED.
You have said that you are not suggesting in any way that the Murdochs were at all involved in this, despite the fact that this happened near their home, but also that a lot of this apparently caught the attention of law enforcement during the investigation of the Murdoch murder trial. When you look at those dots and try to connect them, I can understand why you don't want to take that leap yet, but is there smoke?
It is true that during the Murdoch murder investigations, for whatever reason, SLED came across something that caused them to reopen the investigation in Stephen Smith. We don't know what that is. So for the time being, we have to deal with the facts that we have at hand, and those facts are the physical evidence and Stephen's body, which hopefully we can have examined independently and determine whether or not that first conclusion was correct. We just don't accept that it was correct. We know someone out there knows information, and they've carried the weight of their knowledge for 8 years now. And I know it's burdening their soul. So please put that weight down. Call SLED, call the AG, call us. But we intend this time to get real answers about what happened to Stephen Smith.
And there it is. Mary Glick, you're exactly right. Why would you leave your wallet in your car if you're going for gas? You're not going to walk 3 miles or 5 miles to the nearest gas station and go, oops, I forgot my wallet. I've got to walk 5 miles back.
He'd have called his sister.
He would have called his sister.
I'm way older than poor Stephen. Way older. And I would use my phone at some point during that walk. I mean, people, you don't just walk anymore. You look at your phone and walk. It's just the way we are now. So that's telling to me, just like the phone evidence in Alex's trial, right? I think the phone information is very credible and telling.
Well, and it's weighing on the mind, probably not so much Alex, because even though he's got appeals coming up, he knows the writings on the wall. He knows the writings on the wall. He knows he the best he's going to get is extra beef sticks and maybe a more cushy prison. But as far as Buster goes, it's weighing on the mind. We've heard their prison calls, them talking back and forth. They're thinking about this.
Oh, yeah. And they know it's being recorded. I mean, they're just the hubris, right, is just incredible. They just talk like they're in their own house. They have no concern what people hear. And it's damning in some cases.
Well, and sometimes, Alec will say, well, we'll talk some other time when we're not being recorded. What?
When is that?
In the next life?
Yeah.
You're always going to be recorded, buddy. Are you
And
kidding me?
that in and of itself is sketchy. And if I were a jail official and I heard that, I would be monitoring every conversation that Alex has if he has visitors. I mean, it's, even after all of this, he's still playing the same games.
Mhm.
Incorrigible.
You know, it's I think it's just it's a generational
Yeah.
entitlement.
hmm
They don't answer to the same rules as the rest of us.
Yeah. That's right, and that's something we can't relate to. Um,
Mm-mm.
in the same way that we can't relate to being, um, part of the poverty-stricken area that they lived in. No citizens. I can't imagine that.
No. Let's listen to one of the phone calls.
Yeah.
Gives us a better
Yeah.
sense of where what they're thinking, even though they know it's recorded.
Buster.
Well, I think it does matter, man. I don't think it's. I mean, something's got to give. I mean, I understand that you've done illegal shit, but that doesn't mean you can just, turn a cold shoulder to the laws of the United States.
Good for you.
Illegal stuff. I'm kidding. Anyway, so, but it is what it is, It is what it is.
Allegedly done
Wow.
illegal stuff. And he laughs about it. Now, mind you, he's talking to Buster. Now, we're not talking about financial crimes. We're not talking about gambling. We're not talking about hookers. We're talking about the murder of Buster's mother and brother. And he can be that flippant about it.
Right.
Allegedly. We know what we're talking about. We're not talking about taxes in their own damn world.
I love the way Buster kind of called him out, though, right? Good for
Mhm.
Buster. Well, you just can't turn a blind eye to the laws of the United States, he said.
Yeah.
Good for him. Maybe there's one good apple in there. I don't know. Maybe Buster's a good guy.
He might
But
be. We don't get
yeah,
to
I
pick,
mean
we don't get to pick
that
who
right
brings
there
us
was
the planet
very
Earth.
telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very telling. And in other conversations I've heard, Buster just sounds a little detached, and not really engaged. Of course, that could just be his personality. I don't want to read too much into that, but that's always been my sense, is that he just would like it if he could shake his father, but he has to stand around because he has to get some money somehow. So, if he were to betray his father, for lack of a better word, I'm sure that his father's brothers would see to it that, things didn't go well for him financially.
I think you're 100% right.
Yep.
Even with him in jail, never getting out, I
Right.
think he still has a long reach. I've heard him
Yeah.
calling, especially to John Marvin. I need you to do this right now. Tell your wife I need her to call right now. I need this done
Exactly.
right now. I'll pay you back later. That's what he always says. I'll pay you back later. Now he's a millionaire. He has like
hmm
4 point some million that was put into a trust that cannot be touched. Odd that his father set it up like that.
Yeah. Yep. Um, I just don't know any other way to see it. And let's not forget, excuse me, I'm coughing. Sorry. Um, let's not forget that Alex is building a little army on the inside. I think he's well liked on the inside, and I think he's the best jailhouse lawyer that or prison or whatever will see. And I think people are going to flock to him, and that will be his protection. And I think he will be able to talk to people who can talk to people on the outside. And so it's really like an invisible or an anonymous little gang that he could build. So he's, it's these people, they don't let loose.
No, no, and I think he's in there gambling, getting
Damn right.
remote. I bet he runs the jail. I bet he
Sure
does.
he does. Yep.
They know who he is. He's given advice. I guarantee he's like, when you talk to your attorney tomorrow before you go to court, tell him to do this, this, and this. You tell him that I said that. Now, when you come back, you owe me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, he'll be in good shape in there. He'll be protected, and he'll do as well, I guess, as anyone in prison can do. I can't imagine one day in there, personally, but people adapt. It looks like he's doing a good job of adapting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's got money. He's got his own currency in there. I mean, he's got probably a year's worth of ramen noodles.
Yeah.
He's
That's like dollar bills.
Yeah, he's got beefaroni. He's got those Vienna sausages. He's got real saltine crackers. He's
I
rolling
haven't
in
seen a
it.
can of Vienna sausages in a long time.
Yeah. He's
Oh,
got
man.
that spreadable ham. He's got all kinds of stuff going on.
Timeout. Spreadable ham?
Yeah. You ought to
Okay,
see
I
their
quit.
menu. I was looking at their commissary. I'm like, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You got to use your finger to spread it, but still, it is
Wonder
what
if they have any of that cheese in the can you spray out to go with it and have you a nice ham and cheese sandwich.
Well, now you're hitting below the belt because I love canned cheese. I love that easy cheese. Do you not ever put easy cheese on your celery or your crackers?
No. I like salsa.
Oh, you're missing out. You're missing out. When you
I'll try it.
Yeah.
I'll try it. I've never eaten it. I see it in the stores and stuff, but I was thinking more in terms of not judgmental of it, but in terms of being spreadable and like the ham.
Oh no, I'm totally.
I'm gonna Google
nope.
spreadable ham.
Going forward, we're gonna call it Murdoch cheese. That is about the level of cheese. It's just basically cheese flavored goo.
Much like that spreadable ham, I'm sure.
Oh God, could you imagine?
Well, maybe if it's on good bread, it's all right.
Yeah, and all they're getting is old stale white Wonder Bread.
Yep.
There's no there's no rye, there's no nice sourdough. Oh no. No.
And rightly so. Rightly so.
So we get to the letter that was written in 2016. Have you read this letter, Glenn?
I'm reading right now.
It is disturbing.
Was murdered.
This was written in 2016, so I mean, a little over a year from when Stephen was killed. And Sandy already knew what was up. She had put everything together and she knew that the Murdaws had something to hide. They were protecting one of their own. Now it is well known about Stephen was, I'm going to say, seeing some powerful, wealthy men. That could also be a connection, but we're not going to know for a while. Right now, we just it's just all over the place, but we know it somehow came out during the investigation into Maggie and Paul. But she says, my family is in desperate need of your help. My 19-year-old son, Stephen, was murdered on July 8th, 2015. It has been apparent from the first week of this investigation that authorities are covering up critical evidence, and we no longer know who to trust. Stephen's father, who is now deceased, and I were told that our son was shot to death after running out of gas in the early hours of the morning and exiting his vehicle. Okay, shot to death, and he winds up 3 miles away from his car?
And no blood trail.
No blood trail?
Okay.
Later that day, we were told it was a hit and run. Talk about a 180. Finally, investigators determined he was beaten to death. He was attacked so violently that the entire side of his face was rebuilt with putty for his funeral. Investigators asked us at that time to continue to publicly say it was a hit and run. They claimed they didn't want the killer to know they were looking for him. There's been no named suspects.
Okay.
The first call my family received after the murder was from authorities notifying us of Stephen's death. The second came very quickly the same morning from solicitor Randolph Murdoch. In fact, he called my ex-husband's cell phone as we waited in the police station for a positive identification. He said he heard of the case and was interested in working pro bono as a liaison between the family and investigators. Stephen's father accepted the offer, although we were unsure why Mr. Murdoch wanted to help us. We also weren't sure how he found out so quickly, even before it was confirmed to be our son. Surprisingly, after just a few interactions, Mr. Murdoch stopped returning our calls. Now, why do you think he stopped returning their calls?
He had everything he needed. He was done.
Yep. In his mind, he had done the research Randy had. He knew that they were poorer than Joe's turkey.
Yep.
He knew that they were not educated. He knew that they had no strings to pull. They had no connections. He didn't need them anymore.
Why would a family of a victim need a go-between to talk to investigators about updates and such? I wonder. Because that's what it sounded like his role was.
Particularly a solicitor. She says, within days of our son's death, Stephen's twin sister Stephanie was approached multiple times by peers telling her that Solicitor Murdoch's nephews were responsible. As a family, it was suspicious to us since he had taken such an immediate interest in the case and then became unreachable so quickly. Suspicions reached new heights weeks later when Stephen's older brother, Chris, was approached at work by a man he did not know. This person told Chris he was present when Stephen was murdered and witnessed everything firsthand. He said that
Speak up, young man.
Who is he? I would love to know.
Yeah.
This person told Chris he was present and he witnessed everything firsthand. He said that Solicitor Murdoch's nephew, Buster Murdoch, who graduated with Stephen, beat Stephen to death with a baseball bat. He claimed it was because Stephen was gay. She says Stephen was in fact gay. The witness said they were out smashing mailboxes when they came upon Stephen, and Buster seized the opportunity. The young man told Chris that Buster threatened to kill him if he ever spoke up. This information was given to investigators, but nothing has come of it.
Wow. So that goes back to what we were talking about before, how, I'm rereading. They're talking about Paul, right?
Well, they keep saying nephews. So Paul and Buster, the only thing I can think of is, they're out late at night, up to no good. We have heard about this alter ego of Paul's. When he drinks, he's not the same person. He becomes Timmy. Timmy has a mean streak. Timmy is violent.
Yeah.
Timmy is mean. And
that's why I can see him doing this. And if that's the case, and we'll find out more, but if that's the case, then the body definitely had to be moved. You don't beat someone in place like that, and that's what you end up with. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of, you know how that kind of evidence is.
Oh yeah,
and it would be everywhere. So,
well, and she says in the first paragraph, we believe they're covering up critical evidence. They damn sure are.
Yeah, she knew in the first page of the letter here. She said they knew from the first week. I mean, she knew that something was up. That's how transparently evil they are, right?
She was told. She said he was shot and walked 3 miles after being shot. Then they said, no, hang on.
Oh, man.
It was a hit and run. Then they said he was beaten to death. Then they said, well, hang on. That's not going to work either. Stick with hit and run. We don't want the bad guys to know we're after him.
Is it possible he fell out of a tree?
I mean, yeah.
Oh my God, this is
She's
just stinks, and I hate this kind of injustice. I hate injustice, period. But this is especially cruel. Losing a child is a horrible thing, and to have all this on top of it, and be dismissed and just treated as if your child was nothing. Ah, I can't even begin to imagine that.
and what a horrific
Oh,
death it was.
yeah, yeah.
They had to use I mean, like commercial grade putty like you use on a house
Mm-hmm.
to rebuild his
Mm-hmm.
face.
Yeah.
She says, in reviewing a copy of the 911 dispatch log, which I have enclosed, she came with the receipts. I found
Yep.
that the first responding officer, Michael Bridges, arrived on the scene within a minute of the 911's dispatch, even though in the Hampton County Sheriff's Office incident report, he claimed to have driven around for a while trying to find my son's body. That don't add up.
No.
The second,
Couldn't find him.
no, uh-uh.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Heads are going to roll.
Yeah.
This is wrong. The second officer, Jason Eubanks, arrived within 2 minutes. This is suspicious to me because the area where my son was placed is extremely rural. Cops do not patrol that area frequently, and it's not likely an officer, much less two, would
Wow.
coincidentally be patrolling there prior to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
They had to be in that area at that time for a reason. I suspect they were there because they already knew Stephen was there, and I suspect the Murdaws were the ones that told them.
I suspect you're correct, ma'am.
I suspect you are correct. She goes on to say the Murdaws are probably the most prominent family in Hampton County. Stephen had
Prominent.
I'd say it's a little more than prominent. We all have prominent families in our community, but they don't do shit like this.
Yeah, but Steven said he was going to go out on a boat with a prominent person or something. Remember that?
Yeah.
Prominent. Okay, sorry. This is what I do when I watch the show. I just talk to the screen.
No, that's for good. Stephen had on more than one occasion mentioned to friends and his twin sister that he was involved romantically with someone from a prominent family in that county who was hiding his sexuality. He said that it would shock people to know this person was gay.
Yeah.
We suspect this could be the young man Stephen was referring to, though he never named him. At the beginning of the investigation, officers told us they would not have access to Stephen's text messages for approximately a year.
Oh,
But
wow.
now, who reached out and said we need passwords to all his social media?
Good point. That's a good question.
Why would Randy Murdoch give two shits about the kids' social media if it was a hit and run accident?
I don't know, man. It's so crazy.
They claimed they would have to send the phone to Apple to override the security features. We found out months later the phone had never been sent to Apple.
Right.
Often investigators claimed it was uncertain which department had the phone. We don't know. It's in aisle 5. No, last time we called it was in aisle 10. They don't know what department it's in. They have
Should
since
be in.
released the phone, which they still have not sent to Apple, but still claim they cannot access it. We feared then and still fear now that they have and will continue to delete critical information from the phone. It has already been over a year, and we have no knowledge of who Stephen interacted with by phone call or text prior to his murder. Back to what Sarah said. I think someone lured him out there. I agree.
I wonder.
I agree.
I wonder why she can't get his phone records from the provider, his service provider for his phone.
That I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know if that's just a law enforcement thing or. Yeah, just thinking out loud.
Well, it could very well be, and I'm just taking a shot in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That law enforcement has told Apple we are in receipt of this phone. If anybody calls for transcripts, texts, phone records, anything, no, this phone is part of an ongoing investigation, and they won't turn it over.
Oh, well, man.
Since the murder, Buster has gotten rid of his old vehicle. Oh boy, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Which is critical because, according to the witness who approached Chris, they were traveling in Buster's old vehicle that night. It's also critical because Stephen was found 3 miles from his vehicle on the morning of his murder. There was no blood splatter on
Yeah.
the crime scene, despite his brutal beating, which makes it clear he was transported to that site. We believe there is DNA in Buster's old vehicle. I think it's important to note that Stephen's wallet was found in his own vehicle and his gas cap was open, further suggesting he did not leave willingly. Stephen was very skittish and would never have walked down that road in the dark, and it's not likely he would have opened his car door to accept assistance from someone he did not know, especially alone on a dark country road. He was even known to walk through the woods during the day to stay out of sight. His autopsy shows his toxicology reports were negative for drugs and alcohol, so I have no reason to believe he would have done something so completely out of character. Ooh, the vehicle, I want to know how fast, and maybe somebody in here will know, how soon after Stephen's murder, we can say murder now, was Buster's vehicle sold, torched, taken to the junkyard, or whatever happened?
Wow. Well, I can't do the math, but I can give you the formula. Mass times speed equals force. So it would take a lot.
Have a feeling Buster had a new ride real quick. Buster?
Yeah. And aren't they connected with someone that has a junkyard?
Yeah.
Ah, that's where it went.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it's possible if somehow we could get them then and check CarMax or something.
We'll get Jules on that. She's a South Carolina girl.
There you go.
That'll be good for Jules as long as she wears her helmet.
Jules is a badass.
Yeah. She says, I was up. Okay, sorry. Since Stephen was placed on the highway, it became a highway patrol investigation. We thought this was beneficial to Stephen since local authorities obviously have their own agenda. However, this did not help our case at all. This case was mysteriously bounced from investigator to investigator without reasons or notification. It would repeatedly get to a certain point, then the assigned investigators would bow out, perhaps not wanting to take on Solicitor Murdoch. She said, I was approached in September 2015 by a gentleman claiming to know about a criminal case decades ago that was swept under a rug to protect a different member of the Murdoch family. This came as no surprise to me. I see history repeating itself with my son. No one here is trying to solve our case. Therefore, I contacted Governor Nikki Haley that same month with a plea for help. Now, let me tell you what, she's throwing out some big names. I would love to know what's going to happen when the mainstream media, and they will, I guarantee they're already looking for a comment. This letter has been published in the New York Post. They're going to say to Nikki Haley's camp, did this grievance of Sandy Smith ever make it to the governor's desk? Of course, she's going to say, hell no, these people are worthless. I had to fire every one of them. But she's named in this letter.
That's good.
She said, I wrote her a letter telling her basically word for word the story I've just explained to you. She responded promptly and assigned the case to new investigators. Now, that doesn't mean she personally did it. That's why I want to know her response. While it appeared to be the answer to our prayers, very little progress has been made, and they say they have exhausted their leads. I cannot fathom how that is possible. Our concerns regarding Solicitor Murdoch and his family have not been investigated despite witness accounts, which include an alleged conversation between a schoolmate of Buster's little brother, Paul, and school officials. I was told he claimed to have knowledge of the murder and implicated Buster as the murderer.
Oh, wow.
Those school officials were said to have discussed the statement with the student's family, but not the police. We have heard no further follow-up to this situation. Interestingly, according to my source, Paul was transferred from that school to a private school after the alleged statement. It can't get more strange.
I mean, they had a stranglehold on that area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Unbelievable in this day and age that can still be.
You can't write this. This is something
No.
even I'm trying to think of a great screenwriter in Hollywood. I'm at a loss for words. You can't make this stuff up. Real life is crazier than anything you can dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we get up and we walk through life each day with this kind of general set of expectations of, you know, how life should be, and even on a micro level how our day is going to be and our plans and all of that. But it doesn't take anything but a snap of a finger and life turns on a dime. So that's the craziness in real life.
That
And,
is the craziness. That's
yeah.
why I've never understood with now, I mean, if you do drama, you do drama. That's one thing. But if you are a true crime channel, why you have to add the extra, because you can't get more dramatic than these cases.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just can't.
Could I speak on that for 2 minutes
Go
or a
ahead.
minute? So I think that you do a tremendous job with the facts, and there's some other creators, a handful, that I think do a lot of good research, engage their audience, and just overall have a very positive, good channel. It's a good place to meet, and like I said, yours included. It's the best part of my morning most days, just sitting and listening in here. But what we have, and what we have is we have really bad people out here in the true crime community throwing out this nonsense. And so I would just implore, chat, don't click on that garbage. It's just, it gives the true crime community, a really bad name, and that's why people snicker. You know, when they say, well, a YouTuber, it doesn't have to be that way, because I know your channel and some other channels do fantastic work. And then you have someone comes on and just says some stuff, and next thing you know, the whole entirety of the true crime community nearly is talking about it yesterday. It's just ridiculous.
Curiosity killed the cat. Curiosity killed the cat. That's what, you know?
God alive. I just don't get it, man. It's going to be
is
performance art from here to the trial, and you know, I don't know. It just bothers me, because I know how hard you work, and I know how hard others work, and they do a heck of a job. And then you have this other component that's really just trying to get some clicks and subscribers, and I think it's insulting, and I think people ought to think whether or not it's insulting to their intelligence or not. You know how many times that PCA has been poured over? It's completely out of context because of the redactions, and we don't know where the redactions are because there's not a nice black line. So we don't know what that thing means. But to come to that conclusion yesterday, after all of this time of reviewing that PCA, just, I mean, it really, really, it upsets me for good creators like you and others. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, because you get lumped in with that shit, and you get people that you've never heard of before, and they come in and they just want to. They're not used to how we do things in this chat. Different opinions don't matter.
No,
but you know, I mean, that's just what happens. It's just,
but
and
we're don't be stupid.
We're so lucky here, though. I mean, I can't complain, because all in all, for the almost, I mean, as long as I've been doing this, the channel's almost 2 years old. The only reason I have a channel is because I kept getting put in Facebook jail, and I hate Facebook. But this is a word you can't say on Facebook. But anyway, we've been so fortunate here, because people that can't have a conversation, they get mad, they stomp their feet, you know, the trash has taken itself out over the years. Let me just put it that way.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
It has.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's a good point. Yeah,
it is. It is. It just, and I, you know, and I would, If we just had an echo chamber, I'd be like, this is boring. I want different
You
theories,
need to have that,
different
right?
opinions.
Right. But just like, we were speculating on different ways that Stephen, what could have happened. And I said, maybe he fell out of a tree, right? To me, that is equivalent to what started going on yesterday with the DoorDash dryer and all that stuff. And it's just, yes, there's theories and good opinions and thoughts, but some things are just plain, forgive me, some things are just plain stupid. And that's the way I feel. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
The American educational system has really failed for people, okay? Okay?
Yeah.
But it didn't fail Jinbug because she just left me a super sticker.
Look at her.
Jinbug. Thank you, honey
With
bun.
her maths. Yeah.
Look at that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So she goes on and she says we believe Solicitor Murdaugh's influence extends to the pathologist, Dr. Aaron Presnell of MUSC. You would not want to be Dr. Aaron Presnell anywhere in the United States. I'm telling you, her name is in a lot of people's mouths.
Yep.
Who performed Stephen's autopsy? She says tab D. Now, I don't have any of the attachments. That's just how TMZ does it. Though Deputy Coroner Kelly Green and SLED agent Brittany Burke, who were both present for the autopsy, have gone on the record to state that neither made any mention of a car striking Stephen. Dr. Presnell ruled his death a hit and run. She was combative with the Highway Department investigator Todd Proctor regarding her findings when he pointed out that the only trauma was to Stephen's head. Imagine that, how you get hit by a car and not have a slew of broken ribs. Why did he have a dislocated shoulder? Sounds to me like somebody was holding him and somebody was beating him. You can't do both. There's two people involved.
The logic that it's just, sorry.
Because, I mean, how are you going to beat him and hold his arm? He had a dislocated shoulder. He was trying to get away.
Right. That's how that happens. Or really hard force. But with hard force, there would be tremendous bruising and all kinds of things. And I don't believe that that's the case here.
And imagine how much force it would take to dislocate your own shoulder trying to get away from someone.
Yeah.
Shoulders are pretty tough. I mean, unless
they
you're
really are.
Yeah.
But saying it's a hit and run because he was found in the road, I mean, that's like the logic of a 7-year-old. That's not her job to just connect A and B like it's a paint by numbers book, right? She's supposed to look at the body.
That's the logic. That's the logic of being paid off. That's the logic of corruption. I have a feeling she has maybe done some favors for them before and they were holding it over her head.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Whether it be she wrote up something for a life insurance policy, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this Todd Proctor, this was something I had heard about before, talk about how she really dug in and she wasn't going to change anything. I mean, she was adamant that this was her finding, that was that.
Well, even when Todd Proctor pointed out that and he's not a doctor, when he pointed out, he said the only trauma is to his head. He asked how she came to that conclusion, and she said it was because he was found in the road. What an idiot. That alone was her reason. Now, she knows that's a dumbass thing to say.
Yeah.
She insisted hit and run despite the fact that neither his injuries nor the crime scene support that finding. The coroner disagrees with her determination, and it's documented multiple times in the case file that there were no skid marks or vehicle debris consistent with a hit and run at the crime scene. Dr. Presnell herself confirmed to investigator Proctor that she found no glass or other fragments on the body to suggest a hit and run. It is simply not possible that a vehicle struck solely his head. No! Okay, think about that sentence in itself.
Maybe a Jetsons vehicle.
That's what I was going to say. Is it like the Jetsons? Well, how did the vehicle just strike his head?
Oh, man.
I'm like, we
It's
can't.
just so stupid on its face. You think an educated doctor could come up with some other justifications for their lame findings, right? I mean, it's just, oh.
Magenta, thank you for the super sticker. Magenta, check your email. I sent you an email. I think I sent it on Sunday. Bobby's scooting out. We'll see you tomorrow, Bobby. We'll miss you. You can hang around for the rest of the show. Indie Girl said a 5-year-old can put that piece together. Yeah, ask
Right.
a 5-year-old, can a car kill somebody by only hitting someone in the head? They're going to go, cars don't fly.
Right.
Cars don't fly. It is documented multiple times in this case file that there were no skid marks or vehicle debris consistent. Dr. Brazel herself confirmed to investigator Proctor that she found no glass or fragments on the body to suggest a hit and run. It is simply not possible that a vehicle struck solely his head. Coroner Ernie Washington, which by the way is a cool ass name. Ernie Washington informed investigator Proctor that Dr. Presnell told him she would change her report to read however he wanted if, then she said copies of investigator Proctor's summary notes are attached, but we don't have them. She says, we desperately need your help. This investigation is being deliberately derailed. We need someone to hold the investigators accountable and access Stephen's phone. Solicitor Murdoch is widely known and appears this is playing to his advantage. We need someone who doesn't care about his family name to take this case seriously. In July 2016, I wrote to Attorney General Loretta Lynch in the hopes she would and help us, but there's been no response. These are some heavy-hitting names. These are big names she's dropping in this letter. I mean, big names. Big
And her
names.
desperation and pain comes through. I mean, it's very well written and presented. It just, I can't imagine that level of desperation and injustice. God, people.
But now, with the focus of the country all on Murdoch, they've got a a legacy they never bargained for. Now it doesn't matter. If I was anyone that ever had any dealings with this family, in particular, Randolph, Randy, and Alec, I would change my name and I would move to Yuma, Arizona and learn Spanish.
Yep. You better learn some Spanish.
Hell away from there. Because heads are going to roll. This investigation is going to go on and go on and go on because the cover-up has to be investigated along with the whodunit. It's not just the whodunit, it's the who covered it up.
Right. And now that we've found out so much about that family through the trial, I think at this point we know that that's very, it's very possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there was some reference to a crime years ago that wasn't solved. I bet you there's a string of unsolved, over the years that family has been involved with.
And I'm saying that too. We know about Gloria. Now they don't think that Gloria was murdered, but they're gonna have to look into
just
that.
The way Maggie was talking, it was just awful. It seemed like there was some real hostility there.
Oh my God, could you imagine? She's like, get this bleeding housekeeper off my steps.
Right.
Goodness, get her out of here. I've got people coming over today. Somebody's got to do something about this nasty housekeeper on my steps.
I got a pro tip. Don't push your housekeeper down your front steps if you have company coming over.
Yeah.
Right?
you know, and so brazen. Maggie
Yeah.
knew. Maggie knew people in the
Yeah.
town were talking about her. She was approached a couple of times. She
Yeah.
heard the whispers. They were calling her Murder Maggie.
Yep.
And she was aware, and they said that she knew that she lived in a very poor county, and she's way up here, and they're way down there, and she
Right.
enjoyed that gap.
Sure. Because they're the big giant fish in the little pond.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's easier to kind of, rule with a heavy hand that way.
Yeah, shark in a bathtub is what they were.
Bam. Yep, exactly. Shark in a bathtub. I think I'm gonna start writing down your sayings and come out with a T-shirt collection.
Really?
I
Okay.
thought about that the other day. Yeah, you have some good ones. Yeah.
Jules says Murdoch dynasty is going to fall. Glenjamin's going to start making t-shirts, guys. We're going to have to update that. You know, we sell merch on this channel. Grandma Bunny has a hat. She looks super cute in it too. I don't know if you've been seeing on the members tab. I've been March is for members, so we've had a lot of giveaways this month.
Oh, that's good. See, that's the sign of a good channel, right? You're engaged. You welcome different opinions, and I guess that's why I get so upset with these other folks. I thank you for everything you do. It's a good show every day.
Well, I appreciate all of you guys. I truly do. And on that note of positivity, like I say every day, that's all I got. Until next time. Let's have
Thanks,
a
Brooks.
huge round of applause for Glenjamin. I've been wanting him to come up for quite a while, and he is a busy, busy guy. And I'm so glad that he finally got to come up and talk. Let's have a huge round of applause because I think he had amazing voice. Everybody said his voice is smooth like butter. That is something you'll never hear anybody say about me. That's all right. I had a lady one time leave me a comment, and she actually left me a link for a microphone I can buy that would change my voice.
Oh, don't worry about people. What they hear is what they hear.
Everybody's a helper. All right, guys, big round of applause for Glenjamin. That's all I've got for today. If I don't see you today around in Discord, if I don't see you in one of the Facebook groups, guess where I'm going to see you? I'm going to see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Can't think of better people to spend it with because you guys are the real deal. Thank you so much for being here, voicing your opinion, being super cool with each other, being super cool with me. And at the end of the day, we keep it light and we know how to laugh. So I'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Thank you, Glenjamin. Thank you, everybody.
You bet. This was fun.